I'm Joy. This is the second session for the topic of examining the extinction of the black male from a multicultural view. Sidebar note, the people who were here the first session had other obligations, so they're not able to be here, so we're going to work with what we have. So if everyone will go around the room and introduce and reintroduce themselves, that would be great. We can move on.
Well, once again, I'm Dominique Gordon, and that's it.
Hi, I'm Lynn Bell. I'm one of your students. I'm here for credit.
She's here.
I'm here for credit.
Yeah, my name is Clarence Whitfield.
Alright then. Thank you everybody for taking the time out to attend the session. So again, the topic is examining the extinction of the black male from a multicultural point of view. So we're just going to start with Ms. Bell over here, just to give me a little feedback on what you think about really the black male being hunted down as if he was an animal and just really becoming extinct, kind of like the dinosaurs or, you know, some kind of animal out in South Africa somewhere, I don't know, an endangered species.
I don't really totally agree with that.
What don't you agree with?
That they're being hunted down. I think it takes a lot more responsibility of what you're doing.
Okay.
If you're doing what you're supposed to do, I do believe they do stop and frisk and all these type of things, but if you're doing the right things, some of these things wouldn't be happening. If you're not out there, if you're holding down a job, taking care of your children, do what you're supposed to do, I don't think, I got pulled over, I would say 2 weeks ago. I was leaving one job, going to the other. Pulled over, I did what the officer said, he gave me back my stuff and sent me on my way. He didn't give me a ticket because he asked me what I was doing. I said I left one job. I think he took a little pity on me. I said I'm leaving one job, going to another job. So he said just slow down, gave back my stuff, and I went on about my business. But they have no respect for the police. They don't have no respect for me when I go on a job. So if you don't show no respect to people, people treat you like you act. If you act like an animal, in a sense, that's what you're going to get treated.
So now I want to challenge that respectfully. So you're saying that you don't believe that the black male is being hunted because he's not doing what he's, and when I say he, it's a general, not like one specific black male. So you're saying he's not doing what he's supposed to do, which is why he's being treated the way that he's being treated.
Yes, in that sense, I do believe.
Even with like recent stuff like
With
Kevin
recent
Gardner
stuff,
and...
with recent stuff that happened, I don't necessarily believe that.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Whitfield? Was it?
Whitfield, yes.
Sorry, Whitfield, yes.
And what's the question again?
What are your views on, do you believe the black male is being extinct, or do you think that it's being blown way out of proportion?
Okay, well, I feel that a lot of it is stereotyping. A lot of it, I feel, the black community brings upon itself by the way we act and the way we portray ourselves. A lot of it comes from the news and media, what we see on TV and what we see on the news. We try to portray the images that we see on TV instead of, I mean, a lot of times, a lot of kids come from a family where, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of them come from families where they're considered in poverty, and they haven't been taught on how to behave and live in the culture. A lot of us don't understand where we come from nowadays. A lot of us don't understand our history of what we went through to get where we are. I feel a lot of us just need to be educated on different things that we can do. As for me, like when I grew up, I mean, I had a father in my life, so I understood what it took to be a man and how to take care of myself and take care of your family. And I was taught and learned my history. During the summers, you know, we always went to visit my ancestors. Well, the older generation, I should say. My older generation and taught us the way we should live. What we, you know, my father even, like in North Carolina, he took me by the area where his father was sold and traded off as a slave. And, you know, and that kind of touched me, and I'm like, really? But, you know, and, wow, it's like you just need to be educated. A lot of black men are not being educated. We're just continually in the same cycle as what they see and what they grew up as. It's not that we're a dying breed. It's just that we're not educated. We're falling into the same traps as their older generation. That's my feeling.
That's good.
Well, as I said before, it's all in the media and like people's role models, like all the rappers or singers or models or whoever people look up to. They dress in chains and sag their pants and all that fun stuff apparently. And the black males today think that's what it takes to be successful and be rich, and that's all that matters. And it's just like Mr. Whitfield said.
Yes, Whitfield. It's
all,
Whitfield, right?
Whitfield, yes.
Whitfield.
It's all in the matter of education. They just don't know what it actually takes to become a man, I guess.
All right, so I'm liking the flow of it. We have one individual who's saying that if you act a certain way, then you would not, if you did not act a certain way, you wouldn't get treated as such. If you, pretty much what you're just saying, if you don't act like an animal, you won't get treated like one. And then over here, Mr. Whitfield saying it's about education, and it's because they don't have a strong role model. And then Ms. Whitted over here is saying that it's media. It's media overpopulating this image of, to be successful, you should have to have chains and your pants singing way below your behind and just all that good stuff. Okay. So how's everybody feeling? Everybody's good right now? Okay.
Doing wonderful.
Wonderful. All right, so I'm just going to move on to a psychodrama. Basically, a psychodrama is you're acting, and for those of us who are in the acting world, this should be right up your alley. So a psychodrama, basically, I want you to do is to act out an experience that you've had either recently or past where you've experienced racism, you've experienced it firsthand, or you've seen it, or some type of discrimination, whether it be because of that you're a female or male, you're black, whatever your ethnicity is. So we're going to start right there.
Okay, so I act out something that happened.
Yeah, something that you've experienced.
Like I acted by myself.
Unless you need props or like a person to kind of help you out. Whatever makes you comfortable. But it's a psychodrama because we're going back into the mind. We're going back into your experience, and you know.
So you want like full out every.
You know what? If you're gonna go for the gusto. Go all the way.
Well, I used the example already, but I'll act it out this time. I got you. Okay. So we're a hotel. Mental picture that this beautiful home is a hotel.
And it's beautiful.
So me and cousins, we're walking, we're like, yeah, blah blah. We just came from the little gym in the hotel, so we're like, yeah, cool, fun. And we gotta go back up to the room because we have to go out into the world. We don't want to be stinking, so we had to go take a shower. So we're going upstairs and go to the elevator because we just worked out. We don't feel like going up the stairs. So we're going to the elevator. Boop, hit the button. Doors open. We all get in. So we're sitting in the elevator. There's 3 little Caucasian girls, and their mom is like behind them somewhere. So they come in, so we move out the way, give them their space, and then we all fit in the elevator. And then their mom comes up, and their mom, or guardian, whoever she was, she goes, no, come out. They go back, so then the elevator door is closed. And we stand in the elevator like, we just got this. Like, we knew, okay, we just worked out, can't get mad at us because, sorry that we sweat. But, whatever, brushed it off. But, deep down inside, we was all like, wow, that really hurt my feelings. I couldn't sit on the elevator with us because then it hit us because we're black. That's what happened. So we're going upstairs, so we all get off the elevator, step out, okay? So then the elevator's closed, and then we walk to our rooms. They're like a couple doors down from each other. And we're all walking, we all go inside, we all see our parents. So we're like, hey mom, hey dad, guess what just happened to us on the elevator? And they go, what happened to you on the elevator? So we all go, well, there was a white family, a white lady and her 3 kids. She wouldn't let the kids get on the elevator because she was racist and we were black, so she didn't want her kids next to us. And they go, that just ain't right. So we're like, yeah, why you gotta be racist for? But then I just realized we in the South, that's still a big problem there. So we're just like, we brushed it off and we're like, we're cooler than them anyway, and we went on by our days.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, I just want to break that down real quick. So, when you were in the elevator, after they exited the elevator, you said it didn't really matter, but you said deep down inside, it hurt your feelings. Why did it hurt you so much that these three humans decided they didn't want to be on the elevator with you?
Well, it wasn't so much the humans, more the human pairing. Because it's like, why discriminate? We got our rights already. That's slavery and segregation. That's all over with now. So, it's just, I won't call it stupid. It's just, that's not inhumane. I don't know the word for it at the moment. But it's just weird that they still, like, treat colored people that way, even though, like, that's been over for like how many years now? I don't even know. For a while. So, and I know other kids go to like integrated schools. Like they go to school with other colored people. So I don't know why it would be such a big problem nowadays. So, yeah.
So let me ask you this: did that make you doubt yourself as a young black woman?
No. I'm confident. I know myself. That's it. Thank you.
Miss Ben.
I don't have anything to add now. I don't know. I was telling my daughter, I really don't pay attention to nobody, so you really can't offend me. She'd be like, did you see that? No, but I'm too focused on myself, being honest. So.
All right. Well, if you can't do a psychodrama because you weren't here previously, can you tell me an incident where you experienced? Really?
Well, because I go to work, I do my work. I don't care if you like me, as long as the name is right on the check. That's all that matters to me. I don't go to work looking for friends. I'm not trying to be a buddy. I can eat alone. It doesn't bother me at all.
Well, let's stretch beyond the work area. Have you ever experienced segregation, discrimination based on race, color, gender, even if you were like in the mall, you know, somebody following you in the store?
Yeah, honestly, I can't really think of an incident.
Okay, no problem. Mr. Whitfield. Whitfield.
I can go back. I mean, I have a few of them. But I'm gonna go back to when I was younger in my hanging out days.
I'm sorry, Mr. Whitfield, you're what?
Hanging out days.
Oh, okay.
Partying days.
Gotcha.
A group of me and my friends had got together. We was going to hang out in Newports at this club in Newports. So I had my father's van at the time, and it was about 5 of us heading to Newports. So we decided we wanted to go to the store before we go into the club. So I pull up into the gas station to get out, and we, you know, cop pulls up behind us, but we paid no attention to it. We was like, well, he can't be coming in for us because we didn't do anything wrong. So when we get out the car, he said, oh, y'all freeze and get back in the vehicle. And I'm like, we all looking at each other like, what did we do? So he said, I asked you all to get back in the vehicle, because at first we was ignoring him, you know, we kept walking. He said, I asked you guys to get back in the vehicle. And I'm like, okay. So we all get back in the vehicle, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, well, what's the problem, officer? He said, oh, you guys look suspicious of a bunch of y'all getting out of the van. I'm like, really? I said, we're just going to the store before we go to the club. He's like, oh, you guys just look suspicious. Where are you coming from and stuff like this? And I'm like, where we come from, we live in Poughkeepsie, we're just coming over here to go to the club. I mean, what's the problem? What are you pulling us over for? He said, you guys look suspicious, and I just need to check all y'all ID. And I'm like, well, we're all looking at each other like, really? So we do all that, all through the formalities, and he let us go. And we get back in the car. So now a group of white kids pull up, and he just looks at them, and we're looking at him like, really? You're not going to check them? Like you just checked us? And he said, you guys need to get in there and get out of here before I take you all to jail. I'm like, wow, really? So we got in the car, and I'm like, really? I mean, just because we're a bunch of black guys in a big vehicle, I mean, you shouldn't stereotype us as we're troublemakers.
You didn't check the vehicle, too?
Yeah, they looked inside the vehicle. And I'm like, and I was just shocked that, you know, a group of more than us got out of another car, and I'm like, wow, really, he's not gonna check them because they were all, you know, Caucasian, and I was pretty upset with the situation. And I'm like, and what he said was like, you need to get out of here before I arrest you. Don't worry about what I'm doing. I'm like, oh wow, really? So we got in our vehicle and we went to the club, and just, but I mean, I was pretty upset the rest of the night because of the issue. I'm like, really? Stereotype is like sad the way some black men and black people get treated in this society. It's stereotype a lot of times.
Well, since everybody else went, I'll give an example. I was in Georgia, and I was with my mother and two of my siblings. And we walk into this regular eatery. I forgot like what the restaurant was, but like, you know, regular fast food place or whatever. And we walk in, and there's nobody else in there, but there's a white family sitting at a table, and it's like the mother, the father, probably like two little small kids. And when we walk in, we overhear them say, oh, here come the niggers. And immediately we're looking around like, are they talking to us? Did they just say that to us? And she looked me right in my face and she said, oh, here come the niggers. And I was like, wow. You would think it's like, I don't know, 2012, 2011, something like that, a few years ago. And I'm like, you really are still referring to people of color with the N-word. Like, I can't just walk into an establishment and you just automatically think that I'm a thug. We weren't dressed thuggish. We're dressed regular, you know. I speak correct English, all that good stuff, but yet and still, you still look at me as if I am a second-class citizen, because I'm sure that's probably what she was taught, and now that she said it out of her mouth, she's now teaching that to her two young kids. So every time they see someone with skin color like me, they'll automatically say, oh, look, there goes another nigger, or something like that. So, same question that I asked Miss Whitted, did it make you doubt yourself as a black woman? I asked myself the same question. It didn't make me doubt myself as a young black woman. It just made me really be more conscious that everybody in the world is not going to like me. Everybody in the world does not like the skin that I'm in, and it's up to me to make sure that I love the skin that I'm in, regardless of, you know, how they think or feel about me. But it does get agitating, where you're stereotyped just because somebody before you did something to them. Maybe she had a run-in with a black person. I don't know, but she took it out on me. So.
You were in the South, so it's a little different than up here.
It's true, but it's like I wasn't in the deep South, though. I wasn't in Mississippi. I was in Kennesaw, Georgia. Like, it's a metropolitan of places. So, you know.
It happens up here, too.
Up here in certain areas, too.
I didn't hear you, Miss Bell.
I said it happens up here in certain areas, too.
Like what areas?
Like I said, I can't think of any incidents of racial stereotyping against myself personally, but I have heard.
So I wanted to ask you this question. I'm familiar with the line of work that you do. You work with the disabled, right?
Yes, for the state of New York, I run 5 residents.
Okay. Now, from that point of view, did you witness them being discriminated against because they have a disability? On top of being like people of color by any chance, black, Latino, anything like that?
You know, we're all in the business of taking care of the disabled. So when you go into a field like that, you wouldn't discriminate against, because you know what it entails doing the work that you do with those guys. Now I have the forensic house where these guys will go crazy in on you, and you have to work hard as a team to have these guys under control. You know, work as a team with those guys. But usually when you're working in that type of work, you already know what it entails, what situation. So.
Let's see here. Justice system. We're going to talk about the justice system, and we'll just kind of like, you know, close out.
Just getting ready to bring up a story about that.
Please, Mr. Whitfield, go right ahead.
Okay. I work in a residential juvenile corrections center, and I watch the way they treat the African American kids than the way they treat the Caucasian kids. Like an incident that recently happened on my unit. We have this Caucasian kid he pushed one of the black kids because they had an incident on a unit. So the kid assaulted the black kid assaulted the Asian kid, and right away he was finnered, which means put another case against him and try to send him to a more secure facility for his behavior. Now, I've watched over there where they've had Caucasian kids assault staff, assault teachers, assault other residents, and nothing has happened to these kids. It takes like weeks and months of write-ups and incidents before they address this Caucasian kid's behavior. But when it's a black African American kid, it's like right away they finner the kid, they try to get rid of him and give him more charges, and it's just another sign of cultural differences, injustices that I see between the black. Not to make it a racial thing, but you can see the difference in the way the kids are treated, even in a justice system. And I mean, a lot of times, like the African American kids, they'll do like 1 or 2 crimes. I mean, they do go through different things before they are placed with us. But I see with the white kids, like I always say to them, you must have really messed up for you to come to this facility, because we are treated different in the justice system, where they're given like maybe some community service, or they might have a parent that can, talk to the judge,
That's all I'm
dismiss their case,
Depends if the parent
and
is involved in money.
and like a lot of the African American kids, they don't have these privileges, so they're automatically just go right into like a lot of them that I get, they've already been to like a Rikers Island, places like that at like 15, 14 years old. Then you talk to Caucasian kids, I've been in, they normally get sent to like a rehab or something like that to try to get their behavior right. And it's just, you see the differences in the justice system as well as the way we're treated in the streets.
I think mainly because parents are involved with the Caucasian kids.
Yeah.
They pay for a lawyer, the lawyer get them the charges dropped down to something, like you said, they go to a rehab for 6 months and the charges are dismissed.
I'm going to tie the points together. When I brought up the subject of the justice system, I recently came across, doing my research, I recently came across a case that just was brought back up after 70 years. It's by a young kid named George Steiney. It's either Steiney or Steeney. It's Stinney. And this is over 70 years ago, where this boy is about probably like 12, 13, maybe 14 years old, somewhere down in the South. And at that time, obviously 70 years ago, or 70 plus years ago, it's segregated. Nobody, plays with, everybody else, blacks on one side, whites on the other side. In any case, this young boy and his sister were in a field on the other side of the train tracks. The train tracks in this town separated blacks from whites. 2 white girls come, ride their bikes along, and they ask the young boy and his sister, hey, do you know where we can get those, some kind of flower, like I think they're called like dandelions, where you blow on them and they kind of like look like, there you go, one of those. And they said, no, we don't know, and they kept moving. I believe probably like a day or so later, this little boy was arrested because, come to find out, the 2 little girls that asked him, where do you find these flowers at, came up dead. They were found in some type of water, some type of pool or pond or something, where they had been assaulted, they've been raped, and they had been bludgeoned. So of course they automatically said, well, who's the last person that these 2 young girls could have spoken to? And somehow or another it got back to that they spoke to the young boy. So he's about 12, 13, 14 years old. There's no way in the world that he can kill 2 little girls at the same time. Case evidence proves it. He can't do it. So they automatically took him. They threatened his family, do not say anything. His family actually had to leave town because they were scared for his life. scared for their life as well. They ended up executing him, and he became one of the youngest people to be executed. And it was so bad where he was sitting in the chair about to be electrocuted that they had to sit him up on books. And the ironic part is the top book that he was sitting on was the Holy Bible. So they executed him, and the hat it didn't fit him. So when they pulled the switch, he was just like jolting so bad that the cap came off. Everybody who was in the crowd saw his face and whatnot. And it was at that moment I said they really didn't have any sympathy. He's a 14-year-old kid who probably was illiterate and couldn't speak up for himself. He's scared. And they said that he was coached and coerced into saying, yes, I did kill these 2 young white girls, when obviously evidence proves that he didn't do it. So I said all that to say, to tie it into what Mr. Whitfield said about the justice system and the topic at hand, it would seem that it's a vicious cycle coming back from way before, way back in the day, Willie Lynch, and just even further back with slavery. It just seems nowadays that the black male is being hunted as if he was an animal. This is what media is perpetuating. Like Ms. Whitted said, she thinks that it's all the hype. You have people who are thinking that life and success is about gold chains and things of this nature, when it's not really about that. And you have these black males, and I keep saying black males because that's all we see on TV. We see them being shot. It's cool now just to kind of like shoot it as a man is running and a cop is standing there and killing him or shooting him. So that's the reason why I picked this topic, because it's a big part. It's 2015 and there's still that's stuff that's still happening, So, Ms. Whitty, did you have anything else to add? Any comments? Do you have anything as far as like with the justice system from your point of view?
Well, as far as I know, the justice system is always kind of corrupt, because even like all the way back to like when like the religious people would leave the government, like the KKK, they never got in trouble for burning down churches or burning the black people, but yet the colored people got in trouble for, trying to defend their church or defend themselves from being burned down. Or even Ruby Bridges, the white people were never convicted for basically bullying one little girl. She couldn't defend herself over thousands of Caucasian parents. Or the Martin Luther King marches, they all got like blown down with the fire extinguishers, or not fire extinguishers, water hose, and no one ever got in trouble for that. Even today, like with the Trayvon Martin case, and we all knew he did it, but he didn't get in trouble for it because Trayvon Martin was an African American kid, so they saw no fault in Zimmerman killing him. Even when he basically admitted that he did it, when he said that he shot him because he's on like some night patrol or whatever he was on. But even then, they don't they don't convict the white people, and they only worry about the black males. So the justice system was always kind of messed up.
I was going to say, even now in today's news, cameraman, it's moving to women too now. Black women. We're starting to see more police brutality against the black women as well.
Oh, that was our camera person back. So I'm gonna make this statement, and I just want your feedback, and then we can kind of close out. I once heard, and I'm on the side where I do believe it, just because I see the evidence from every point of view. It said that when a white person gets upset, they get told to calm down, why don't you see a therapist, it's okay, and they get justice. But when a black man gets upset, he is murdered, he is put into prison, he is bound and chained, he is treated like a second-class citizen. So in essence, when a white person gets upset, it's okay because they are exonerated or they are excused. But when a black person or black male, black female gets upset, they are called all types of names. And I've witnessed this. You're called a monkey, you're called a coon, they're being said that you are ghetto, that you have no coof, you know, you're from Section 8 projects, you know, why do you have to act like a wild animal? So it's when a black person gets upset that nobody, you know, says, well, how can we help you? They don't get exonerated, they don't get justice, they get the grave or they get time. When a Caucasian person gets upset, it's, we'll get them for you. Justice is served actually expeditiously. It's very, very quick. And again, that's just from my own personal, I've seen it, witnessed it, and whatnot. So with that being said,
case in point, the situation that happened in Texas with the bikers, they were all white guys, and they showed video footage when they were breaking up the riot or whatever. They were just leaning up on the police cars. They were talking on their cell phones. They weren't handcuffed. They were all basically just sitting around laughing. But when you go to disperse a black you know, riot or whatever, people are getting shot, tear gas, maced, hosed, you know. So again, it is completely different based on color, because those guys were not shown any violence whatsoever. They were basically, like you said, just stay right here, just hang out while we get, you know, get this resolved. They were allowed to walk freely and roam freely, and you know that black men have to get on the ground. They got to put their face on the ground. The cop's knee is in their back. You know, even with the gardener guy, he couldn't breathe. He's yelling, he couldn't breathe. Like, they went through, like you said, all of this, and then we watch how they handled this case, and those guys were just allowed to just chill until, if they ever made it to jail. I don't know, I didn't follow the whole story, but it just, you know, they made that clip about look what they're allowed to do.
So I'm going to ask two questions, but just to piggyback on that and ask the question, do you really believe that it is a race issue? Because now, on the one hand, people are saying it's not about race. We love everybody the same. We're one big rainbow coalition. But when the media gets a hold of it, they make it seem as though it is race, and not so much the media. You have regular people like us that just so happen to have our cell phones out and we're taping what's going on. Case in point with the girl that's in Texas. They're at a pool party, and you can see the white officer snatching her, pulling her by her hair. First of all, she's a young girl.
14.
She's in a two-piece, you know, swimsuit. He's pulling her by her hair, dragged her to the ground, and then put his knee in her back. The little girl's probably like that big.
She's screaming and crying, call my mom.
Right. He's probably like a good 200 plus pounds, and he's putting all of his weight in her back with her face in the ground. Now, everybody else would say, it's not about race. We love everybody the same. However, that's not what you're conveying to me across the screen, social media, even when I step outside my door. I'm not making the connection. So it's an incongruent, because you're telling me it's not race, but then it is race.
But even in that situation, the boy that was taking the film was white. Those were his friends. His friends were the black kids. He said he was scared to death. He said, but the officer walked past him, but told his black friends to sit there and don't move. Did not bother him whatsoever, but proceeded to the black kids, you know, and were telling them not to move. And again, when the black kids were questioning, what did we do, he pulled out his gun and put it in their face. And the other officers on the scene were talking calmly to the kids, trying to figure out what is going on, what's happening. He just blew on the scene and just started, basically like going crazy. But mighty funny, the boy shooting the video said they didn't even bother me. He said they bothered my black friends. So even the boy shooting the camera could see that this has something to do with race, because why wasn't I told to get on the ground and do all that? He said they looked right at him. He said, matter of fact, at one point they dropped the flashlight. He picked up the flashlight and walked over and gave the cop back his flashlight. Now, if a black boy had picked up his flashlight, he probably would have been shot dead, saying he had a weapon or whatever. So case in point, I still feel, and agree that it comes down to race at the end, because everybody's not being treated equal or the same. If you come on the scene, if you say get down, everybody in the crowd, I don't care if they're Chinese, white, everybody should have to get down, not just a certain race of people. So that whole situation, and I hope it turns out, that justice is prevailed for that little girl who's probably now traumatized by the police.
And if you notice, each person who was behind the camera, if they were a person of color, something always happened to them. Mm-hmm. If you follow up on like the
other guy, they got arrested.
Exactly. The guy who did the Eric Gardner film, something happened to him. He was assaulted or he got thrown into jail on some bogus charge.
Yeah.
Something always happens to the cameraman who happens to be of another color.
Because you just cost this cop his job.
Exactly.
They're not happy about that.
Started, they received threatening letters from whoever it might have been. They don't even know where the letters came from. Him and his, I think his girlfriend.
If he testifies.
If he testified, they received threatening letters. I mean, it's a sad situation, but it happens.
It's happening every day.
I try not to live my life as racist.
To worry about it.
But I try to live, like I'm equal, but you can see the differences in society. But me, I look at it as it's just a lack of education. If you're not educated, they're going to treat you that way. Like I try to teach the kids at my job, if you educate yourself, that is the biggest threat to a white man, is an educated black person. Because they know, they're scared that you're going to take what they have.
Make it to the White House.
And like I tell them, these kids walking around like that, I said, nobody is scared of you. Because they know eventually you're going to end up in trouble. The white man is not scared of you.
No,
they want you to act like that. If you want the white man to get scared of you, go get an education. And they will fear you because they don't want you to take what they have. That's my whole thing on society. I mean, myself, I've always tried to push myself to do more than what people think of me. I refuse to accept that that's all I'm worth, that's all I'm gonna do. If you tell me I can't do something, I'm gonna go prove it to you that I can do it just as well as you can. I mean, a lot of our kids don't have that teaching, that education. A lot of these kids nowadays, they're following what they was taught. Like a lot of kids I talk to, me and my dad, we be out gangbanging. I'm like, your father gangbanging with your father? Yeah. This one kid told me one time that, me and my father smoked, and we went out and beat this whole crew down. My father gave me his gun. I'm like, my uncle locked up, my daddy locked up, my grandfather locked up. It's just a continual cycle, and they don't know how to break the cycle, and nobody's teaching them how to break the cycle. And it's sad because the system is not really helping them either. The system is just seeing a dollar sign for these young men and these people in prison. It's not.
And the media is only showing you the negative part.
Exactly.
Mr. Whitfield, we're sitting in his home. He's working for the state. And I know I work for the state. And there's men that come to work every day. They do what they got to do because they got mortgages and family to take care of. But you don't see that on the media. What you see is the guy that's on the street handcuffed with his face in the ground. So all black men are not doing that.
And I think that goes back to what Ms. Whitted said. She said how the media likes to just blow up this whole thing where, this is the lifestyle and every black person or every black male is trying to follow this, when in actuality you're not really filming the fact that...
All you seeing is the black man with their face injured. We have a friend in church that just got his master's. I have a friend that got his master's 2 days ago. A black man, I grew up in Harlem, so all black men are not gang banging.
Exactly.
But it's the media, like again, like she said, it's the media.
Instead
of them putting light on, not all black males are, making kids here, there, everywhere. We have examples just within this room right now. Black male has his own home, work and take care of his family and stuff like that. And then you have people who have their masters. And people who just graduated, doctors, but we don't see that on TV. We just see that
black men are not all robbing, stealing, and killing and making babies. They're not taken care of, so that's not true.
For example, like I was on Facebook, I think, like the viral photos or whatever, and like all those little links that show you the news about what crime someone did, and it's usually an African American male, but I was looking at one, and there was a picture with the storyline about this. He was like a teenage boy, an African teenage boy, and he rode his bike to chase down a little girl that got kidnapped from some guy. He rode his bike and he saved her, but that didn't make the news, but they always know. And then there was another picture. It was like there was 4 African American quadruplets who graduated college together all at the same time. And it's like none of that stuff is seen except on Facebook.
Right.
Like it's never on the news where everyone can see it. It's not on television, but like only if someone actually shares it.
And then we recently see a young man that got accepted to all 4 Ivy colleges that he put in for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
He
you're not,
had
you're
well
not,
over a
yeah.
4.0. His
Yeah.
was like off the scale. He's
so they're not, the
smart.
media is not portraying that, but they'll do the Gardner case and they'll do the Brown case because this is what sells newspapers and have people watching news. All black men are not out there gangbanging and making children they're not taking care of. So I don't believe that. I think it has changed in the last 25 years with our black men. Like I said, seeing them going for their master's degree, they're holding down families, getting married, and doing something.
So I'm gonna ask this question. Okay, I just want everybody's opinion on this right here. Now that we have a generation coming behind us, you know, young or little black boys. I don't have any children at the moment, but in my mind, I keep saying to myself, in the next year or two, when I do have a son, I'm gonna have to sit him down and tell him.
I don't think it's just black males, but I tell my daughter, if a police officer come up to you, whatever the case may be, you are not to move. You ought to be respectful and do as he tell you, because any false move, she might get shot. So it has to do with male or female.
Well, now I want to challenge that only because it's me.
I tell the same thing, be respectful.
But now here's the thing, though. Like Mr. Whitfield said, the black male is more of a threat to someone who is not black. You have
But you just
Caucasians.
gave the idea that girl down on the floor, the cop had his knee in her back.
True, but you don't
So
see that too often.
But
It's
I'm just
coming up, but you don't see that too often.
You have to teach your children respect on what to do. I know some officer friends, they say that these children, black, white, or blue, have no respect. They're growing up and they talking to authority people with no respect. So if you come to an authority person like that, you might just be happening.
Okay,
Catch
but
somebody
now,
on
But
a
just
bad
like
day,
she said,
yeah.
if it's a Caucasian person that has a temper or has a bad day or doesn't know how to talk to authority who doesn't know, they have options. They have options. Like she said, let's go, go talk to this person, let's find out, let's help you, let's do this, let's do that. But when it's a black person, there are no options. You do what they say or pay the price.
I just don't want to stereotype.
So it seems like it's not fair. Yeah, we respect to everybody.
Respect because
Yeah.
you just don't know.
I mean, even with society, I mean, it's even different. I can't say it's all racist because it's even different with white, as they call it, white trailer trash and upper class white people. I mean, I can use the example of the movie Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. Now, this kid was racing a upper class family. The kid had a Corvette. The Dodge Viper, and the other kid was, he was talking to the boy's girlfriend, and he said, and he busted out his window. Threw a ball and busted out the kid's window. So he said, let's race. And the girl was like, if you win this race, then I guess you'll be taking me to prom. I don't know if y'all seen the movie, but in the movie, he crashes through a house, tears down all these houses, and the other kid he's crashed too. He's tore up the place. He caught racing. It's all on video. But when they get to the police station, the rich kid doesn't even see the cops. The cop is telling the considering the poor white trash boy because he's been in trouble before. He's low income. He's telling him, he said, you see those two out there? They're not even going to get in trouble, but you're going to jail. How can you treat two people different? They're white because, I mean, even with the kids that come over there, I can see the difference. I can tell where each white kid comes from by the way they come. I mean, this kid, I had one white kid before. This kid was a terror. I talked to him. I said, well, what are you locked up for? He said, because I used to steal my parents' cars, and I used to trash them. I used to tear up my parents' cars. I used to rob people. But this was a rich kid. I said, well, why are you here? He said, because my parents got tired of me getting in trouble, so they said I need to learn a lesson, so they sent me here. They sent me here. He didn't get placed here. They sent me here because I need to learn a lesson.
well, then that's
And
the
I'm like,
difference.
that's the difference between, rich kids get privileges. And he told me, he said, yeah, my parents got tired of me getting in trouble, so they sent me here to learn a lesson. This was the worst white kid ever. because he had money. Because he had money, his parents always covered it up and gave him a slap on the wrist. But he kept doing it, of course, and that's the difference between. I mean, even with white people, there is racism with white people. If you're a lower class white person, they get treated different too. And it's like if a white person hangs out with black people, they get treated different.
Right.
If you
You're
hang
trying
with
to act
black people, you're trying to act black.
But like I was saying before, this is just my opinion, just from my experience and the stuff that I'm seeing. I'm scared that in the next 2 to maybe 5 years, I'm going to have to sit my son down and tell him, like we're back in the 1950s, when you see a white person walking down on the street, when you see a white person walking down on the street on the same side as you, you got to cross the street, or you cannot look at them in their face. For me, it's like we're going back into the 1950s and further back. It doesn't, my opinion, it doesn't matter how respectful I raise my child to be. He will always be stereotyped as a threat because, one, he will be respectful, he will be educated, but he'll still be a threat. I had to tell him, I had to sit him down, like, listen, you see her walking on the same side of the street as you, cross the street. I don't care if you have to go 2-3 blocks and it takes you a whole hour to get home. Just get home safe. Just because what the media is putting out there, we don't see a whole lot of positive stuff. That's just my opinion. Yes, ma'am.
Tell the story about when you got the ticket, because that's like, I mean, so that he don't think we're bashing all cops.
Well, okay. So I was, it was like during the, I think,
just saying that
Christmas
all
holiday.
cops.
Right, just to make the point,
Alright.
It's not all cops. I don't want anybody to think that I'm
Right.
like a racist or anything like that. Because again, there are great Caucasian people,
Yeah.
great Chinese people, all of that. Case in point, I was in the car and I was probably like during the Christmas season, and I was coming off the ramp. I was coming off the ramp, and I didn't realize how fast I was going. You know, I was in the car with my sister. We were talking about Christmas, and I was, really excited. And I guess I had a lead foot, and I sped up more. The cop came behind me, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, what does he want?" Now, mind you, this thing just happened with what's the kid's name? Brown, Michael Brown. That incident with Michael Brown just happened like weeks before. So I'm driving, he's behind me, he's flashing lights. I'm just like, why is he pulling me over? The person in the passenger seat said, "Oh, he's going to give you a ticket." I said, "Why?" "Because you're speeding, Joy." So she said, "Pull over." I pulled over, he got out, and because I was scared, I put my hands up on the window to tell him I'm not a threat. So when he came to the window, he said, "Roll down the window." I said, "Okay, I'm rolling down the window." Because I was scared. I just saw what happened to Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, and all in between. Roll down the window. He said, "Ma'am, such and such, you're speeding." I said, "Officer, I'm sorry. I apologize." Went through the whole thing. He was very nice. He was not arrogant. He did not misuse his authority. But I was scared.
He said, "Put the window up."
Petrified. He said, "Put the window up
so
because it's cold
We were shaking.
outside." We were inside shaking. He said, "You know what? Pull the window up.
Get
I'll be
warm.
right back."
I'll be
So
back.
again, case in point, it's not all white people. It's just what we're seeing.
And then he threw the ticket out.
He threw the ticket out. I didn't get a ticket or anything like that. So,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not all white
Not
people.
all
Not
cops
all,
are
it's
like
just
that.
that
Some of them are cool.
What it is, it's the way it's the way our culture portrays themselves. A lot of times we portray ourselves as thugs, and that lifestyle is, for some reason, is what they want to be. The thuggish and pants down and smoking and drinking. But all of us is not like that, and not all cops, like you said, not all white people are bad.
Right.
I have white friends. I have a white, I have a white cop friend, and he used to always, call me and be like, "Yo, they setting up traps here this day, so be careful." Not all cops is bad.
Right.
It's the way you portray yourself in society that gives us the negative stereotype. Like I said, I have white friends, so it's not all people. It's the way we portray ourselves. I mean, there is racism out there because there are some people that raise their kids. I mean, racism is taught. It's not something that you learn.
Remember
It's
in New
taught.
York City when they just were going to take
It's
you to
taught.
jail because you look like
Yeah, it's taught.
somebody that
I
did
mean,
a crime.
yeah. I mean, when I was in college, I happened to go home with, a friend of mine one weekend, and this was like really my first time ever really hanging out in the city. It's really my first time hanging out in the city. So, you know, we're riding around and we come in like late. It's like 2, 3 in the morning. And we're getting out of this car. We're getting out of his car and we're going into the house, and the cop happened to pull up, and he had a big luggage bag because he was doing his laundry from, you know, months and weeks of being at school. And the cop jumped out his car. He pulled out his gun and everything. He said, "Look, what do you guys got in that bag?" And we're like, "Yeah, oh," and I'm scared. I'm petrified because this is my first time ever coming in contact with cops. I'm like, "Yo, whoa, whoa." He said, "What do you guys got in the bag?" And he's like, "No, it's just my laundry, sir. It's just my laundry." He said, "Well, open it up." He actually made him dump out the bag. Dump out the bag to prove that he just had laundry in the bag. I'm like, and I'm looking at him like, really? But you know, you have those kind of cops, and it's the way you portray yourself. But I don't feel all cops and all lawyers
Just like what
and all
Ms. Bell was
judges.
saying.
It's
You act like a
bad.
fool
It's
and
just
they'll
that
teach you
it's
like
the
a
way you act. It's the way you portray
Yes.
yourself. It's just that kind of world. You just got to teach your children, like she said. You got to teach your children. I know a lot of times when I get pulled over, I got my license and registration. And I say, "How you doing, officer? I mean, here's my stuff." And I said, "No, sir. Yes, sir." But a lot of people, when they get pulled over, they cussing out the cop. I'm like, really? But you know, if
They
you
don't
prepare
understand why
yourself,
they need
yeah, if you prepare yourself and you know,
Just be
they're
mindful.
gonna be nice and let you go. Because most of the time they let me go whenever I get pulled over. They be like, "Oh, just slow down, just you know." So it's like you gotta know, you gotta be respectful. You gotta know what you're dealing with out there.
I try hard to show people. I do. I try really hard. Living in a Caucasian dominant community is different because I was like walking home from the bus stop or whatever, and this lady and her father or husband, I don't know what he was, but they're painting outside. So me trying to be nice whenever I go over, they were looking at me at first, but then I was like, "Don't worry, I'll just complimenting her on her painting that she was working on." She's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." Like, she looked really surprised that I would be saying stuff like that. And I was like, "I love art and all that fun stuff," and she was really surprised. But she was like, "Well, that's really sweet." She told me her name. We had like a small conversation or whatever, and then I kept on walking home. So now every time I see her, she's like, "Hi, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good. How are you?" And all that fun stuff. I mean, like you said, not all African Americans are bad or thugs or all that stuff.
Because they're gonna assume we're gonna act like that because that's what they see 90% of the time. So then when they see a respectful black person, it's like, oh. Because like I said, when we first moved out here to Smack and Kill area, it was like a culture shock for us. People coming up to you, talking to you, you know, because coming from the city of Poughkeepsie, you know, people don't really talk to you, greet you. Pretty much, I said, hey, how you doing? But out here, I mean, they were coming up to me, and I'm like, okay, what do these people want? Why are they coming up in my yard? I mean, they were just introducing themselves, and it was like, you know, it's a difference. It's a crazy difference, but it is.
We have the best neighbor, and she's white. She's not letting nothing go down here. Nothing. With our kids,
the whole area here.
with anything, she watches over us.
I think we're the only black family on this street. And we all talk and
they all watch out. Yeah.
How does that make y'all feel being only black people in the area?
I love it.
We don't mind because we've been years on the other side. Years in the city of Poughkeepsie, years living.
They don't speak to you.
And they'll walk right past you and look you up and down.
We lived
and won't say anything.
You know, where we came from. We lived there. And nobody ever spoke to us. It was like, go in your house, leave your house. Even the neighbors rob me. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Out here, they watch out. We watch out for each other.
Yeah.
I got robbed by the neighbors. I'm like, wow, really? So, like I said, the only ones that spoke to us when we lived on Bay was a white neighbor that we had here and the white neighbor that we had here. The black people, they never really spoke in that neighborhood. They robbed me, but
Yeah. They too busy worrying about what you got.
Yeah.
And that's
In
the
order
issue.
to try
And that's
to-
what I tell you. I focus on myself. I can't tell you what nobody else got. 'Cause I'm trying to get my own.
Kind of keep your own
No,
stuff.
I ain't got time to tell you what this one, that one, the other one doing. That ain't none of my business.
And just like when you were saying like that, they need to be more responsible. Like, you know the bad parts of town.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen after 12, 1, 2. You're out, you putting yourself in danger.
For what
Just,
reason?
even if you're not doing nothing, even
Then
if
you
you
want to
just,
turn around and say the white man, the white man, the white
Right.
man. The white man is
Did-
not keeping
right,
you out. If you're not
right.
employed and not
you
doing
got
what you're
school the
supposed to
next
do,
day, you got work, you should
you
be
keeping
home
yourself
in your
down.
house minding your business.
Yeah.
But you're out here because you don't want to be in the trouble, but you still want to be around when it go down. So for the excitement of it all, and you want find yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time when something goes down. And I know, like, you from the city, from Newburgh, it's rough.
And it's not
rough.
all the cops. It's black people killing
Yes.
black people.
I went there for
Exactly.
church one night and we were leaving. It was 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. The kids were still outside.
Yeah.
They were still sitting on the stoops. I could not believe it. It was like 12 o'clock in the afternoon and we're leaving out of Newburgh late at night. And I was like, on South Street, I could not believe it. I said, these kids have school and they're still running up and down the street.
About a month ago, my boyfriend's nephew was killed by another black kid. Over a girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one that they told to come outside.
Yeah, they come out. Yeah, he's
I
in
saw
his
that
house
in the
1 o'clock
paper.
in the morning.
And they text him and
They
said, come on
text-
out.
The girl texts him. He come out
thinking
and
that
they
he's
shot
gonna
him.
talk to the girl.
And he's in the area. All black people know him. He's screaming. I'm shot. I'm shot. He's out there crying. Nobody come to assist him.
But you know somebody hear it because they
Yeah.
out there all
Yeah.
night.
All night long.
They sit on those, they cook in the grills on the street. I mean, I could not believe it.
So
And it was
it's
1
not
o'clock in the
all about
morning.
white people doing something.
Yeah, sometimes we do it to ourselves. We tear up our own community.
Not teaching our children no respect. We're not telling them to go for no education. And it's just a complete cycle. And then they don't have anything and then upset because somebody else has something.
All right. Well, again, thank you to everybody who participated. I greatly appreciate it. Anybody have any closing remarks? Anything at all? Okay. So that's a wrap. We're going to close this session. You guys are awesome. Thanks.